It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Rabbi Yitzchak Abram. We're here in your lovely apartment in Golders Green. And Rav, you are very unique, having lived in Shanghai and having seen the Mir, the Bochrim from the Mir. But you have an amazing history of your family. So I'm so honored to be here tonight. If you could tell us a little bit about your roots.
This was the last time that all the family were together, including my parents, till 1986, for the next 40 years.
If you could turn it around just to show us. And this wedding was held in...
Pardon?
Where was the wedding held?
It was held on Lag BaOmer of 1946 in Shanghai, in the gardens of the Abraham family. The Abraham family was the president of the community.
R.D. Abraham.
Huh?
Of R.D. Abraham.
Yeah.
Reuben of R.D.
Yeah.
Abraham.
Yeah, yeah.
And Rabbi, you also have a... This is a Adi.
Yes.
If you could explain.
Yeah. This is a copy of my bus pass in Shanghai, which my uncle sought that I obtained in order to be part of the minyan immediately after my bar mitzvah in the synagogue.
So you were 13 at the time of this picture. You were bar mitzvah.
Yes, just after my bar mitzvah.
And Rav, can I ask you, being in Shanghai, did you remember the poverty? There was a lot of people that were lying on the streets. Did you ever see that?
Good question. Good question. As a matter of history or record, there was the city of Shanghai, and presumably there were other places as well, they had a detail of, just as you have over here collecting the rubbish. Yes, there was a detail every morning of going around the city and collecting bundles of those infant mortalities of the during the night, yeah, for disposal. And I recall, at that time we were living. This is at 1940, the end of 45, then 46, 47. We were living in Ash Camp. It was in the Great Western Road of Shanghai, and it's about a half an hour's walk from there, perhaps a bit more, to the synagogue Ohel Rachel, where we used to pray. Right? And every Saturday morning, my brother Abi, my middle brother Abi, and I used to walk to shul, and with half an hour's walk. And on the way, we used to count the number of bundles we saw on the way, and it came to something like 12 to 13, sometimes 15 bundles during that walk. That was the mortality rate of the.
Was it because there was no food? People were starving.
They certainly were. I mean, the vast majority of the people of China were in a very, very poor economic state. Yeah, starvation. I mean, destitution was very common. Right? Yeah. I believe that for the whole of China, communism was a blessing. A blessing in disguise, but nevertheless a blessing.
And Rob, can I ask,
It was really the only solution.
when you went to the yeshiva, when you saw the Mir Yeshiva, what was your impression when you went inside?
Oh, when I first went to Mir Yeshiva, I was very much struck by the dire. What struck me, the dire poverty of the place. As far as I could make out, the food, the accommodation was of the poorest sort. As much as the community, and especially the Sephardi community, as much as they were helped, they helped as much as they could, but the economic situation of the yeshiva was very, very poor.
And do you remember any of the great Rabbonim?
Yes, I remember. I tell you, a number of young boys were being accommodated in our house. People like Ramosha. There was a certain person called Ramosha Blumenfeld, who later became a rabbi in Kew Gardens in New York. Hendelis. There was a Hendelis who actually married my cousin. There's a picture of him in I think Maisie Meyer's book of their wedding. And this. And I saw some of them, and there was also a certain Rabbi Shechter I mentioned. He was instrumental in my brothers going to the yeshiva, and also there was somebody called Kambian, who was a frequent visitor to our house. You might also have heard the name Fischoff, who became
Bernie Fischoff.
Bernie Fischer, yes. His name was Yechiel Benjamin. His name was Yechiel Benjamin Fischoff. He was what we call a Ben Bayit in our house. Yeah. In actual fact, my father set him up in business.
He became very successful.
Yes, but I'm saying, but who set him up?
He was only Nifta.
You see, my father used to go to the auctions and used to buy job lots. Right? And he brought them home, and he gave it to Fischoff to resell and to have a share of the profits. And he did that all the time before we were interned. I'm talking about early 1940s, this is 42, 43, and then right up to 1945 when we were interned. He took it over. But he was, as I say, he was a Ben Bait in our house.
Do you remember ever seeing Reb Chaim Shmulevitz?
I'm not sure. You see, I probably did see him, and I certainly did see Reb Chaim, but as a child, I didn't take any notice. I was, as I say, when I went with my brother to Mir Yeshiva, I was 8 years old. I was born in October 1934. So how old was I in the beginning of 1943? So I saw them all. But to say that I actually remember the names and the people, etc., not. I came across some of them later on. In America, in England, I came across them. In Israel, I came across them. There's a book called Nes HaTzalah. You know that? Hartzman.
Yeah.
I think it's by Mr. Hartzman. Now, Mr. Hartzman, again, he was a Ben Bais in my house. Yes, and I came across it.
That was one of the very first books. It was.
Pardon?
It was one of the very early books.
Yes, it was one of the first.
Yeah.
The Nes HaTzalah, because it chronicles the journey of Mir Yeshiva from Mir, which is like in Kovna, across Russia, the Trans-Siberian Railway, up to Vladivostok, and then Japan, Kobe. Yes. Well, this Hartman, he was a Ben Bais in my house. In our house he was. And I came across him again when in Paris, when I went to Slobodka. I went to Slobodka in 1956 from Gateshead. I stayed a couple of days in Paris on my way, and I came across Hartzman there. I stayed with him. And then I went to see Rabbi Itzler. You heard of the name Rabbi Itzler? Yeah, I went to see him.
And who were your Rabbonim in Gateshead?
My Rabbonim in Gateshead? But by the time I came, the Rosh Yeshiva was Rabbi Gurovitz. The first Rosh Yeshiva was somebody called Rabbi Landinsky. Yes, but he left at the end of Pesach. Oh no, before Pesach, the Zman, the last Zman, he left for America. He went to, because they say he had a son who was a hemophiliac, and the only treatment for him was in the States, so he had to leave.
And when you
and then he was Rabbi, so Rabbi Gurovitz was the Rosh Yeshiva, the Menal, Rabbi Kahan, he was the Menahel, and then the next one was Rabbi Leblopion, who was, I was afraid. Now today's Rosh Yeshiva is the son of Rabbi Gurovitz, the son of the last Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Gurovitz, and the son-in-law of Rabbi Lopian. He married his cousin. His wife is his cousin.
And Rav in Slobodka, do you remember?
Slobodka?
Which?
Of course, Rabbi Schulman. I was there with Rabbi Schulman, and Rabbi was the Mashgiach. Rabbi Dushinsky was Moshe Dushinsky. He was actually from Hebron. He had a scar from the Hebron the massacre.
From Tarpat.
Yeah, 1930s.
1929.
Yeah, 1929. Yeah.
And when you came to Eitz Chaim, who were your Rabbonim in Eitz Chaim?
Well, my personal rabbi was Rabbi Orderman. I was learning with him. Actually, before I went to Gateshead, I was also in his shiur for evening classes. And then when I came back, I was learning Yoredeo with him and Rabbi Orderman. But the Rosh Yeshiva was Rabbi Nachman Greenspan. Yeah. And he was one who gave smicha to my brother.
And can I ask you, do you remember your bar mitzvah in Shanghai?
I certainly remember it, but I remember it principally because it was a non-event. I'll tell you why it was a non-event. By that time, my two brothers had already gone to... My bar mitzvah took place in late 1947, right? If I was born in 1935, it works out there. They were in Shanghai. Right. And we were still living, not back in our house, we were living in Ash Camp. Because as I mentioned over here, we didn't get our house back. Now, it so happened that by the end of after my brothers left in 1947, my sister left in middle of 1946, my sister Julie, when she got married. She got married like Ba'omer. There's a picture of that wedding that you see. The picture like Ba'omer of 1946. My brothers left on the 3rd of January 1940, beginning of 1947. Yeah. So there were only 7 of us at home, and we were still living in Ash Camp, and we didn't have a minyan in the Ash Camp. The nearest minyan we had was in the city, half an hour away or so, Rachel, as a synagogue. Now, during that period of time, shortly after my brothers, my sister Julie left, and then my brothers left, my mother had a nervous breakdown. You see, and she was really out of commission for the whole year, more than a whole year, the whole of 1947 until the beginning of 48, the end of 46, 47. See, so my father didn't even go to the shul on the Shabbat of my bar mitzvah. You see, because he was in attending my mother 24/7. So that was it. I went to shul, and for morning meal we had with my sisters, we had in my uncle's place, and that was it. And the afternoon, there was a youth group that was to go to every Shabbos in the afternoon for Seudah Shlishit. And I think I said something over there. I spoke a bit over there. I don't know about what. I can't remember at all. And that was my bar mitzvah.
What was your pasha? Do you remember?
Yes, of course. It was Noach. Noach pasha. Did you
do the whole sedra? Or?
No, that's not our practice. It was unknown virtually in Shanghai, and all Sephardim, they wouldn't really allow a 13-year-old boy to lame. See, this is a latter.
Excuse me, I hate to break up this party, but no, but I really need my beautiful. We're safe trip back again. Maybe we'll meet in Eretz Yisrael. We never know. And really, I'm really pleased to meet. And thank you very much for my gifts. All this, he looks terrific. He always looks
amazing.
Good. Yes, he looks very, very.
Hannah, thank you very much.
Okay, take care. All the best. Safe journey back. And Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach as well.
Ooh, it's 10:14.
That's fine.
I have to cope with the night.
Okay, I just want to ask, Rabbi, if I can ask you, when you were going to the Mir, did you ever come across Chabad? Because there were a lot of Chabadniks, a lot of Chabad from Chabad. Did you remember seeing any of the Bochrim from Chabad?
Oh, that's a good question. I believe this Rabbi Schechter that I mentioned, actually I think he was from Chabad, because although we speak of the Mir Yeshiva in Shanghai,
there were other yeshivas as well. There was from...
Oh, that's what I was about to say. Apart from that, there was 2 other yeshivas in Shanghai, apart from the Mir Yeshiva. And the other 2 yeshivas was Chachmei Lublin,
there were a few from Chachmei Lublin.
And Chabad. Yeah, but they were too small, each of them separately, to be a separate. So they joined together apparently.
Yeah.
They lived together. But I was aware of that. But as a child, as I say. See? You see.
So Rabbi, if we can...
And this Rabbi Schechter that I mentioned to you, I think he was from Chabad.
Rabbi, if we can just explain, this is the most incredible picture that you gave to your parents.
Yeah.
If you could just explain the picture, and where are you in the picture, because it's very special.
Yeah. In the tiny picture, right, in the right-hand corner, the tiny picture in the right-hand corner was taken in the spring of 1943. The larger picture was that was before we were interned in camp. The larger picture, which is further enlarged in the frame, that was taken after camp in 1946. Yeah. The silver frame marks the 25th anniversary of my parents, for which we presented these photos as you see in the frame.
And you are on the right.
I'm in the right hand corner, sitting down.
It's a very special
in both pictures.
So Rav, it's just unbelievable that you were a witness to one of the most they say the learning of the Mir Yeshiva in Shanghai was one of the
Yes.
the most
Yes.
intense.
It was said. It was said by Rabbi, by the Mashgiach, that they learned with the greatest intensity and asmoda during the years they were in Shanghai.
So, Rabbi, if I could ask you, what message do you impart to what message do you give over to your family, to your children and grandchildren? What message do you give to them?
I think you have to be more precise about what message.
What advice, or what? Because you've seen so much and you've witnessed so much. What advice do you give to your family and to the future generations?
I would say what I believe was my father's message is that nothing is by chance. It's all predetermined and predestined. And God is in his heaven, and whatever befalls us is according to his will.
It's very special. And Rabbi, if you look at the picture of your father, you had incredible parents. Very special.
Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
And this is, I think, I'm just going to come in because I want to thank you. But this is such a wonderful picture of your mother and your father. And this was taken after the war.
Yes. This was taken sometime in 1953. I'm not sure about 1953, something like that. Yeah. 49.
And you can see your
in
father.
the early 1950s.
It's a most what.
You
can see your father was a real Talmud Chochem and.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but he certainly was 100% Jewish.
So, Rabbi, I want to thank you.
He was immovable.
I want to thank you. I'm so grateful, and I feel so privileged to meet somebody who was in Shanghai, who saw the Mir.
Yeah.
It's very, very special, and it's a zchut that very few people are alive today to have. And it's been, for me, the greatest honor and privilege to be here in your beautiful home.
Yeah.
And you should just have mazel bracha and a Shana Tova.
Since we are speaking about it, I'll tell you an anecdote, but it's true anecdote happened to me. I'll tell you. Yeah. In the late summer of 1968, I came back home one evening, and at that time, the only member of the family was my mother. I came home, and we had left the East End. We came to Stamford, not quite Stamford Hill, to Clapton, a place called Harrington Hill. That's right. And when I came home one evening, 1968, I had returned from Israel because I was in Israel at the end of the 1967 war. I was on the first plane out from London after the Six-Day War, and I served as a volunteer in a post office, in branch post office in Jerusalem, in the Rehov Yaffa. There's a branch post office for 1 month as a volunteer, and I came back home. And then a year later, that was 67. In 1968, I went again to Israel, round about Shavuos time, just to see what the situation was after a year. I came home one evening, And when I came home, there was a visitor at home. Somebody was visiting my mother at home. Yeah. So I came in. My mother said to me, she called me Ike or Isaac. She said, "You have a good memory. Who is this man? Who is this man?" He said, "You tell me who is this man." He says, you should know him. You should tell him. So I looked at him. I gave him a look, and I said, "Before I answer the question, I want to ask him a question." I said, "Right, ask." So I said to him, I quoted a passage. I said, "V'hamelech David zaken ba b'yamim, v'chasuhu b'begadim v'lo yicham lo." Yeah, that is the first pasuk in Malach in Shmuel of Shmuel Bet. Yeah, right. So he heard me. So I asked this gentleman, I said, "Why am I saying this pasuk to you?" It's a pasuk. It's a verse. Why am I saying this pasuk to you? "V'hamelach David zaken ba b'yamim v'chasuhu b'begadim v'lo yicham lo." So he thought a couple of minutes. He couldn't answer me. He didn't know why. So I said, "Why I'm quoting this pasuk to you? Because this pasuk, you taught it to me in Mir Yeshiva on the Sunday of Parshat Chayei Sarah. Because this is the Haftarah of Chayei Sarah, of the death of Sarah. You sat me down next to you. It was a Sunday in Mir Yeshiva, and you taught me this pasuk. And that's why I'm speaking here. And then I told him his name. I said, "And your name is Moshe Blumenfeld." Rabbi Blumenfeld. This he told me. Now, reckoning, when did that happen? From 1960, it was something like 25 years previously. Because this was before we went to camp. And we went to camp in April 1943. April is in the spring. So just before that, so it must have been before April. Before that was Chayei Sarah. And he's taught me that pasuk. I said, and he gave a reason why it says v'lo yicham lo, because why was it that lo yicham lo? He said he felt cold. V'lo yicham lo. Why? So he's a king. You can put another blanket, wear another jumper. No, whatever he wore
didn't worry.
Why? Because he maltreated clothing. He cut off the garment of King Saul. So since then, the warmth and protection that is afforded by clothing was denied to him. So therefore, whatever he put on, v'lo yicham, that's why the pasuk says v'lo yicham lo. But this was Rabbi Moshe Blumenfeld, whom I came across a few times later. I went to visit him when I